All right, my name is John Elder from codemy.com, and today I'm going to build this cool little to-do list app with Django and Python. Now, this seems like a pretty simple app. We can add items to our list, get a little message, we can cross off an item once it's been completed, we can uncross it if we change our mind, and we can delete it, and then we can also edit things, do some other stuff. And again, we get these little messages that we can get rid of if we want. So, like I said, this seems like a very simple app, but it's going to allow us to learn all kinds of cool things about Django, specifically how to do basic database type things. So if you think about basically all websites online, they all work with databases. You know, think about Facebook. You're adding a post, you're editing a post, you're reading somebody else's post, or you're deleting their post. That's it. That's just database functions. And if you understand how to do those things with databases, you can build just about anything, including something like Facebook. So those are the things we're going to learn in this video very, very quickly. Now, this is going to be a very short video. I'm going to cram this in here very quickly, and I'm not going to explain things in great detail in this video. If you want to learn in more detail, head over to my website, codemy.com, and scroll down and see this Django for Web Development to-do list app course. If you click on it, you can get this full course. It's a couple hours long, 27 videos, and I go into much greater detail. We take it very slow and really explain this stuff from the inside out. It's $29 for the course, but if you stick it out through this whole video, I'll give you a coupon code that will give you access to all of my courses. I've got over 20 of them now. Regularly priced $49. I'll give you a coupon code for another 22 bucks off. You pay just $27, I think, for all of my courses. So if you're interested in that, we'll talk about that at the end of this video. Okay, so a couple of things. I'm on a Windows computer. If you're on Linux or Mac, you should be able to follow along. There may be a couple of little things here and there that are different, but for the most part, it's going to be the same. I'm using the latest version of Python, and we're going to use the latest version of Django. We'll also be using the Bootstrap CSS framework in this video, and likewise, we're going to use just the latest version. Okay, so let's get started. So first things first, we need to open a terminal, and I'm going to my Windows Start menu, and I'm just going to type in PowerShell. Now, this is very much like a Linux terminal or a Mac terminal, so most of the commands are going to be similar. So first things first, we need to make a directory, and I'm going to call this Django. You can call this directory anything at all, it really doesn't matter. Now we're going to move into that directory with the cd command, C. So now I'm going to install virtual environment. I've already got virtual environment installed on my computer, so you may get a little prompt saying, are you sure you want to install this? Click yes. So now we need to turn on virtual environment. And this will allow us to create a virtual environment to have all of our code and tools and things sort of in a little walled garden so we don't mess up the rest of our computer. Okay, so it's installed some things and we should be good to go. Now if we look and see in this directory, we see all of these virtual environment things. So now we can turn on virtual environment by calling scripts activate. And now you see these little parentheses around our directory. That tells us that virtual environment has been turned on. So now let's make another directory and let's call this Django app. Again, you can call this anything you want. It absolutely doesn't matter. So let's cd into Django app, and we can see there's nothing in there yet. So let's go ahead and install Django. So pip install Django. And this command installs the latest version. I'm getting a little antivirus thing that's scanning it to make sure everything's okay. You may or may not get that. No problems found. And now we're installing Django, and it looks like PyTZ. And it looks like that's been successful. We can run pip freeze to make sure that Django and this other thing has been installed. Okay, so now we need to actually create our new app. So we go Django admin.py start project, and let's just call this to do. Now, if we look in here, we have this new to-do directory. So let's cd into to-do. And inside of here, we have our manage.py and our to-do folder. So now I'm going to open up the Sublime text editor. You can use any text editor you like, but I like Sublime. It's totally free. Check it out. You can Google it, Sublime Text, and find it. Click on project, add folder to project. Now we just need to navigate to this directory. So C, Django, Django app, and then to-do. And if we select folder, boom, it pops up. And here we have our manage.py and our to-do app that we just created. So now we can run our server to make sure everything installed correctly. And in this directory where we have our manage.py, we just call Python manage.py run server. And you can see it started. We have some migration errors right here we can fix in a second, but we can see we can now navigate to this URL, or 127.0.0.1 is basically localhost. So that's this right here. So now when we hit reload, we get this basic Django page, says the installation was successful, congratulations, and we're good to go. So now we need to open another PowerShell because our server is running in that other one. So we can cd into C Django, and let's turn on our virtual environment again. Oops. scripts activate. Okay, so that's been turned on. Now let's cd into our Django app and our to-do directory. Okay, and we see this manage.py file, so we know we're in the right place. Now let's go Python manage.py migrate. And this will fix that migration error we got when we turned the server on. It's not a big deal because we're not going to be really using the admin section of Django if you're familiar with that, but I always do it anyway. So now it's time to create the main app inside of our app. So we go Python manage.py, start app, and then let's call this to-do_list. Okay, so now if we open back up Sublime, we see this to-do list app has been added to our main app. Now we need to register it in our original to-do app by going to the settings, and down here, let's just go to to-do_list and save that. So the first thing I always do when I create a new app is to right click and create a new file and save it as urls.py. Now we can open up our original urls.py and just, well, we can get rid of these comments. And I'm gonna copy all of this over to here. And we can get rid of this. And we can get rid of that and save this file. Now let's open up our original urls.py file again and add include, and then say from to-do_list import views. And then down here, we need to add this new path, to-do_list. So path include to-do_list.urls, import our views, save this, and we should be good to go. So let's create a home page. First off, I'm gonna go to the top level of our to-do list directory and create a new folder. And let's call this templates. And inside of here, let's create a new file and save this as home.html. And for now, let's just say hello world and save this. Okay, now let's open up our views and let's define home, pass in requests, and return render request home.html, and then our dictionary. Save that. Now let's open back up our urls.py inside our to-do list directory, and let's import our views from this directory. And inside of here, let's create a new route, path, bump, home.views, and let's name this home. So now if we save this and head back over to our local host and hit reload, we get an error. So what do we do? Oh, on our urls.py, this should be views.home. My brain switched them around. Okay, now we hit reload. Boom, we get this hello world. Very cool. So next, let's go ahead and come over to our templates and create a new file. And let's save this as base.html. And inside of here, we're gonna put some stuff. But first, let's open up our home page. And at the top of this, let's extend our base. And then let's create a block called content and end block. And now let's head over to getbootstrap.com and hit the documentation. And we want this starter template here. So I'm just gonna copy this and head over to our base.html file and just paste this in here. And let's grab our block content, and where it says hello world, let's paste that in there. And then our end block. Save this, head back over to our server and hit reload, and boom, you see all this text changes slightly. That means Bootstrap has been installed and it's working. So now let's add a quick nav bar. Come down to components, let's see, nav bar, and I'm just gonna grab this one right here, head back to our base.html, and right underneath our body, let's just paste this all in. And I'm gonna change the search button color from success to secondary, and I'm gonna say add to list. In the placeholder text, I'm going to put add item, and let's give this a name of item, which we will learn about later. And then up here at the top, let's change this from a light nav bar to a dark nav bar. Okay, so let's save this and reload and just see if it's working. Yes, it is. Let's wrap this in a div as well and get rid of all of these links. So head down to our block content, and let's give this a div with class equals container. Close it. indent just to make things pretty. And now let's go through here and get rid of all those links. So here we have the disabled. Here we have the drop down. Here we have just that link. Here we have the home. Okay, so let's save this, come back here and hit reload and see. So that bops over a little bit, all those are gone. Now it says nav bar. Let's put a line break here and change this nav bar thing as well. So let's go line break. And then up here on nav bar, let's go to do list. And let's change this to a Django URL. So let's go URL and then send this to home. Come back here and hit reload. Boom, we get this. And it seems to work. Awesome. One last thing to do very quickly, head down to the search button again, and underneath the form class, let's just put in our CSRF cross-site reference forgery token right now. We'll come back and talk about this later. So save this and we're good to go. So now let's start to set up our database stuff. Head over to our to-do list directory and then open up models.py, and I'm just going to paste this all in here. So we want to create a class called list. It inherits models.model. It has two items, an item and a completed. The completed is a Boolean. It'll be either true or false, because when we add an item, it hasn't been checked off yet, right? So the default will be false. If it had been checked off, the default will be true. But you know, you don't put take out the trash on your list having already took out the trash. You haven't done it yet, right? So that's what this does. We're gonna make the item, the actual item, we're gonna call it a car field, give it a max length of 200, and then this is just some stuff I always put in. So let's save this. This is for the admin section, but we're not gonna talk about that in this video. So now we have our class defined, but let's head over to our PowerShell and let's go Python manage.py, make migrations. So our migration has been created. So now let's go Python manage.py migrate. Okay, so that seems to have worked. So if we head over to our Sublime, we can see this migration has been created. It's been given an item, a completed, and an ID, and we're good to go. So now inside of our views, we need to be able to access our model. So we go from .models, import list, because that's the name of our class. And now we need to create a form. So head over to our to-do list, create new file, and let's save this as forms.py. And inside of there, we need from Django to import forms, from models import our list, and now we need to define a form. So we're gonna call it list form, and it's gonna be with the model list, and it's gonna have these two fields, item and completed. So we can save this now, and we're good to go here. But we need to import this into our views. So from forms, import list form. And while we're at it, let's import messages so we can pass messages around whenever we add something to our database. And let's add a redirect, because we want to be able to redirect on our page. So save this. Next, let's start to tweak our home page so that it'll list the things that we add to our database. So I'm just going to remove this and put in all this stuff. So if somebody fills out the form and adds an item, that's a post. So if a post has come to the home page, we need to do this stuff. Otherwise, we need to just show the page itself, right? This is basically the same thing we had earlier. We've just added this all items thing. And this list form is the form we just created. If this is valid, save it, and then we create a variable called all items, and this lists objects all. What this does is list all the items in our database and slap them into this variable that we can then access on our page through our dictionary, through our all items dictionary. And then when we add something, we want to add this little message that says success, item has been added to the list. So we're good from a view point of view. Now we need to come to the home page and actually allow, and then actually add all this stuff. So first things first, let's add the messages. If messages for message and message, flash the message up on the screen. And this div is just a Bootstrap. I got this straight out of Bootstrap. Makes the little alert, makes the box yellow, gives a little X that we can click in order to close the message and all that good stuff. So now we need to actually put the stuff in the database up on the screen. And you remember we called these all items. So we can go if all items, and then let's go ahead and end our if. And then inside of there, let's call for things in all items, which is a loop. We want things.item, and then let's go things.completed, and then end for. So if we save this, so one more thing we have to do very quickly, head over to our base.html and find our form, and let's create a method and set that equal to post. We save this, come back here and hit reload. Now let's go testing this out and add our item. Boom, item has been added to the list. We can get rid of the little message, testing this out. one more time. Item has been added to list, testing this out, false, one more time, false. Now they're all on the same line. We can easily change that by just going to our home page and adding a line break. One more time, added another one because I hit reload. So now let's add a Bootstrap table instead of just having these on the page. So I'm gonna come over here and let's go table, class equals table and table ordered. And let's go tr, td, and our td, add another td, end our tr, and end our table. In fact, let's take this table and put it outside of the for loop just for fun. All right, so if we save this, come back here, hit reload, boom, we have this nice table and everything looks good. So this row is whether the thing has been checked or not. And let's add another one to delete. And first, let's wrap this in a center tag. Add another TD, center, delete, save, and reload. Okay, so now let's make this delete button work. So let's head over to our views.py. Let's add a new function called delete. We want to pass in the request and a list ID. We want to set the item equal to that ID, delete it, return this little message, and then redirect us to the home page. So save this. Now we need to head over to our urls.py and create a new path. So let's go path, delete, and what do we call this? List underscore ID. We want to send it to views.delete, and we want to name it delete. Don't forget our commas. Save this. Now head back over to our home and let's wrap this in a link. And we want that link equal to URL delete and then things.id. So let's save this, hit back here and hit reload. Now we get a link. If we hover over there, you see down in the left hand corner, the URL is delete/2/3. We're passing the ID, which is the database ID of each of these items, and then that will allow us to know which one we want to delete from our database. So if we click this, we get item has been deleted, boom, it has been actually deleted. So very cool. So now let's change this to either checked or unchecked and make it a link, so where if we want to cross an item off our list, we can click the link and it'll do that. So let's head back to our views.py and add a couple more functions. We create a cross off function and an uncross. The cross off will allow us to cross the item off the list. The uncross will allow us to uncross it if we change our mind. So what we're doing is we're setting a variable, call it item, setting it equal to whatever item list ID, just like we did with the delete. And then we want to change our completed from false, which what it is now, to true, right? So if we want to cross it off, we want it to be true that it has been crossed off. It has been completed. Then we just simply save this item back to the database and redirect home. Same thing here. We want to uncross. We pass in the ID. We create the list item, and here we want to change the completed to false because it's true, it's been crossed off. Now we want to uncross it, so we want to change completed to false, and we save it, redirect back home. So now we can head over to our urls.py and let's create a couple of new paths, and I'm just gonna copy and paste because they're going to be basically the same. And let's call this one, let's just call them the same thing that we named here. So cross off. And then views.cross off, and we'll call it cross off. Likewise, let's call this one uncross. I'm just gonna copy that. Views.uncross and call it uncross. So save this. Now we need to head over to our home and make a fundamental change here. We need to be able to know whether an item has been crossed off or not. So to do that, let's just create a quick if statement. So let's say if things completed, I'm gonna copy this stuff. And let's indent this just to make it easier to read. Else, and I'm gonna paste this stuff in again. And let's end if. Okay, so if the thing has been completed, we need, if it's been checked off, let's create a class and call it table-secondary. Now this is a Bootstrap thing that will just change the color to something else. Let's save this, and if we hit reload, we won't see any change yet because nothing has been crossed off yet. But if the thing has been crossed off, then we want this things.completed to say uncross instead. And if the thing has not been crossed off, we want this to say cross off. Let's save this and make sure we did that right. So, okay, so they haven't been completed. We want to be able to cross them off. So let's turn this into a link. So let's go href and close it. And inside of here, let's create a URL tag, URL, and we want to send this to cross_off. And we want to pass in things.id. So I'm going to copy this whole URL and come back up here and paste it in, close it, and instead of cross off, we want to uncross, right? Okay, so let's save this and hit reload and check this out. So one more time, let's cross that off. Boom, it has been crossed off. We can change it back to uncross. Very cool. And so that works. Now, I want a line to go through here. So there's an actual line. So that means we need some custom CSS. So my very top level, I want to create a new folder and I want to call it static. And then in our to-do settings here at the bottom, let's define our static. It already has the static URL, but we need to put the static dirs. So save this and close. And then in our static, let's create a new folder and call it CSS. And inside of that, let's create a new file and let's save it as my_css.css. And inside of here, I just want to create a simple class called striker and set the text decoration to line through. So if we save this, head back over to our home.html, inside of this thing that's been crossed off, we want this item to have a class of striker. And then in our base.html, we need to add our new CSS sheet. So I'm just going to copy this old one, paste it in here. And for the URL, we want static css.my_css.css, add name for a file. And then at the top, we need to load static. So save this, come back here and hit reload. Boom, we have this one more time crossed out. So everything seems to be working. The only thing left to do is make these clickable so that we can edit them. So let's head back to our views.py, create one more function, call it edit. Same thing, if it's a post, just like in our home page, we want to do some post stuff and redirect back to our home page. Otherwise, we just want to show the thing on the page. So let's save this, head back over to our to-do list templates, right click new file, and let's save this as edit.html. We want to extend our base so we have our nav bar and all that good stuff. Now we want to block content. And inside of here, if there is an item, I'm just pasting in the form from our nav bar. And I've made one little change here. We've added this hidden field. So type hidden, and the value is item.completed, and the name is completed. So we want to be able to pass into this form whether or not this item has already been checked off or not. So because we want to be able to save that. Because remember, in our model, by default, it's false. So if we submit a form and don't mention it, it's going to change it to false, even if it's true. So that's why we put this little hidden field. So save this, head over to our urls.py, and let's create a new edit path. Same thing as all the other ones, edit with the list ID, pointed at views.edit, and name it edit. So let's save this. Now head over to our home page, and we need to just now wrap this guy in a link. And same as all the other links we've created so far, we want URL, pointed at edit, and we want to pass in things.id. So let's go ahead and just copy this whole link, and we need to do the same thing down here for this item. Okay, so now if we save this, come back and hit reload, boom, these are now links. If we click on this, testing this out again, we change it to just testing it out, boom, it's been edited, now it's testing it out. One more time again, this one's already been crossed off. Let's get rid of again. It's still crossed off, but it's been edited. Very cool. So that's pretty much it. We went through this very, very quickly. Like I said, if you want to dive into this stuff in greater detail, check out my course here on codemy.com. Like I said, it's $29 for the course. It's a couple hours long. I go into great detail, really explain everything we talked about in this video, so you'll really understand it. I copied and pasted a lot of stuff in this video. We went very, very quickly. This is a way to sort of dive deeper into it. And if you're interested, check out all my other courses. We've got a lot of Ruby on Rails, a lot of Python, some other Django, some cryptocurrency stuff, JavaScript, SQL database stuff, regular Ruby programming, PHP, some more crypto stuff, Ubuntu Linux, WordPress, some HTML, SEO, and even email marketing. And like I said, if you come over here to enroll now and click on this total membership, it's normally $49, and that gives you all of my courses, all my future courses. I've written several best-selling books on Amazon. You get the PDF copies of those. You get access to me. You can ask questions. You can interact with other students. We have over 50,000 students signed up at the moment, and it's just a really cool environment. If you click here and sign up, like I said, normally it's $49, but if you enter this coupon code YouTube Coder and then click apply, it'll knock another $22 off, and you pay just $27. So, that's a pretty good deal. Hundreds and hundreds of videos and money back guarantee, of course. And I have to charge something just to cover bandwidth. That's why I'm doing this. But I think it's a pretty good deal. So if you're interested, if you like this video, if you want to learn more, definitely check this out. And so I hope you enjoyed this little app. It's very quick and easy, but we call it C.R.U.D, create, read, update, and destroy. Once you understand how to do these things with databases, with Django, you can really build just about anything online. And I think this is a really easy to understand example of how to do that. So very, very cool. Delete, and it has been deleted. Okay, so fun. So anyway, my name is John Elder from Codemy.com. Be sure to click the button to like and follow us here on YouTube, and check out my website, Codemy.com.
And we'll see you next time.